Well, even with so many woes on the offense, the penalties, basically just shooting ourselves in the foot the entire game. That's really what it
Yeah.
was between the penalties and the play calling, the mental mistakes. There was still a lot that went right during this game. Over the first 2 weeks, I've never seen
Defense.
our defense play this well since
Defense.
we've had Derek Johnson lining up in the backfield. I
In the
just,
backfield,
well, it's the backfield of the defense.
if you want to call it that.
I do call it that.
All right.
I don't think I've seen a defense for the Kansas City Chiefs this good, this early in the season, at least, since Derek Johnson days.
No, definitely not. Our corners are phenomenal. And surprisingly enough, Jalen Watson, bright, shining rookie last year, only played 22
Surprisingly enough.
snaps so far this year.
He played how many? I'm
Oh,
sorry.
that's what you mean.
22.
Whew.
He played one in Detroit and 21 in Jacksonville.
I think that's a lot to do with
Maybe he had something
Brent
going on. Maybe there
McDuffie
was a
and
matchup.
L'Jarius
Or...
Sneed being fully healthy.
And Joshua Williams, he has more snaps than him too. He's the number 3 cornerback right now.
Well, those two are I like stellar sophomores at this point. Like they're solidified. I know like the level of play we should be expecting out of them. Like that's duh.
But just to see that battle between those two, great to see.
I mean,
I
we got
love
a
seeing
good
that Josh
thing for the
Williams is up there
duration of
now.
their rookie contracts because we're not going to pay them. We're not going to keep them.
The only DB that I see us paying is going to be Trent McDuffie.
Yeah. We're not
Because
paying
he's a first
L'Jarius.
rounder and he's playing better.
He is. You talked about a bright shining star, Sean. Trent McDuffie. I mean, guy is out there lighting it up, whether he's blitzing, whether he's in pass coverage, whether he's coming up for a tackle. That's a DB that does it all, and you don't see that very often. I don't even know if you could say
I know
there's
he's not
one
a
DB per division that does that.
I know he's not a corner, but like I'm just size wise, especially as well. I'm just getting a little bit of Bob Sanders. Like I really am.
Ooh.
Bob Sanders could do it all. So
I like that. How impressed were we with the defensive line? Obviously, Chris Jones being back, only playing 50% of the snaps, having a sack and a half. That I don't think we need to talk much about how influential Chris Jones was in this game and what he means to this team. But how about the rest of the defensive line being able to step up, stop the run? Travis Etienne and Tank Bigsby, who barely played, did absolutely nothing. And Trevor Lawrence was under pressure the entire game. He didn't have a single snap where he
their
was
whole
comfortable.
offense did nothing. Their Trevor Lawrence, I mean, anybody on the Jaguars was terrible in fantasy football that week. Like we shut them down. It's
Everybody
beautiful.
was talking about how
That's usually
Christian
not our
Kirk
strong
and
point. Like this
Ridley
gets
were
me
going to
like
have great
aroused.
games.
Chiefs defense, dude. Good Chiefs offense, like through my lifetime, that's usually what we expect. I know we've had our terrible years, but when we're good, our offense can usually get clicking. We've had great offensive players, a couple here and there on defense, but we're not necessarily used to good Chiefs defenses for real. The last good Chiefs defense was in like the 90s.
Last good Chiefs defense in the 90s? Is that what we're saying?
I mean, we've had good players, Derek Johnson and Eric Berry for sure. But have we had a good defense since
all around defense?
Derek Thomas and Neil Smith?
I don't know if we can leave out those years where we had Tamba and Justin and Derek and Brandon Flowers at DB.
That was a. I mean, but we're
talking what late 2010s, early 2010s. We're still talking mid 2010s was still good all around defenses.
No,
like Chiefs have always been known for good defense.
Half. No, I mean, back in the day, yeah. Since 2000, no.
It was just because our offense was worse than our defense. That's why you're thinking of that.
Our offense was always at the bottom of every single list.
I don't know. I'm thinking the Trent Green, Priest Holmes, Tony Gonzalez trio for a few years, and then I don't know, since Alex Smith, like the Chiefs' offense has been pretty good.
I can't disagree with that.
And you know who else had a pretty good showing on Sunday? The Chiefs tight ends. Whenever they were in 13 personnel, or if they were just throwing the ball to them, they did fairly well for what they were doing. I would personally love to see a little bit more 13 personnel. I think that's the type of move we need to make for our offense. Our tight ends are great, and whenever we get out in front blocking everybody, that's whenever we can really set up the run game, and that's whenever we actually did something in the run game with Pacheco.
You think so?
I think so, man. Noah Gray was out there catching quite a few balls.
No, Noah Gray had himself a day. I think he had a long one of 25, I want to say.
Well, he had that one on
Sorry, 38.
what
Or no.
3rd and 15. He fought for it. Almost got that first down.
Yes. Yeah. He had a long of 16, but there's 3 receptions for 38 yards. Noah Gray went out there, did his thing. He's looking like the guy that we drafted him to be, the successor to Travis Kelce. And with Travis having his injury potential down year, at least for a few weeks, Noah Gray's stepping up. If only it could have been Jody.
Could have been.
Let me backtrack here for just a second. The 2013-2014 Chiefs defense was actually pretty damn good.
Mid-2010s.
So I'll give you that.
Asshole.
What? That was a nice unit, man. The linebacking
Oh,
crew
now you
alone,
come back. Now
Justin
you're
Houston,
coming back.
Tamba Hali, and Derek Johnson, dude.
I hate you.
But I mean, so that was 2 years. Even so, like before Tyrann Mathieu got here, like we've been a bottom half defense.
We're here for a good time, not a long time.
True. I'm still taking the 90s defense over that.
Fair enough. I would too. There was a play in this game that really caught my attention, and I want to see a lot more of it. I believe it was first drive for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and it was 3rd down. We put Karlaftis and Chris Jones on the same side. We put Chris Jones at defensive end and Karlaftis in as the 3 technique. And they didn't even stunt. They both just gave bull rushes, came flying in, got the sack on Trevor Lawrence or throwaway, whatever. But both of those guys just demolished their one-on-ones. I don't even know if it took a full second from snap to the time that they had already taken down Trevor Lawrence. That for me was one of the plays of the game. It set the tone. It got Trevor Lawrence and that offensive line scrambled, and they never recovered the rest of the game. They obviously had some good drives and were able to take it down into the red zone. But this is our Spags bend don't break defense, and they didn't break a single time, only allowing 3 field goals with a turnover in the red zone. That play right there set the tone for the whole game. And I want to see more of GK and CJ on the same side. And when Charles Omenihu comes back in, oh boy, you're talking about obviously Omenihu is an outside player, but he can play the 3 technique when need be. It doesn't matter what happens. You put him and CJ on the same side, you put GK and CJ on the same side, it doesn't matter. And oh boy, by the way, don't forget Felix on the outside. He's only getting like 16 snaps a game in the first 2 weeks. He's still looking raw, but the guy comes off with a firepower.
I was gonna say it's the effort, it's the tenacity that I'm loving about him.
That guy wants it every single snap. He's not out there for a lot of snaps, but he wants it every single snap. He's not going to let his guy beat him based upon effort. If his guy beats him, it's because that guy is just that much better skilled than he is. And that's the only time that you see him lose, but the effort is always there. The defensive line, I was scared for it, specifically on the interior, just because without Chris Jones, the interior defensive linemen aren't that strong. But man, this unit, when it all comes together at week 7, it's going to be scary.
The best part about that is at that point, I guarantee you there's going to have Chris Jones headhunting whoever is weakest at that point.
Whoever's the weakest, whoever's more tired, wherever he can not get double teamed. I mean, oh my gosh. It may simply come down to the guy does get his 15 sacks. Just specifically, he may get 15 sacks from week 7 on, as soon as Charles comes back.
It's going to be deadly, dude.
With the vigor that guy is playing with right now. Again, it's just the first game, but clearly missing week 1 and all of the offseason did him favors. Missing all that time did him favors, kept his body healthy, kept him rested, kept him ready to go. He took 0 hits and he was just full of it.
Can we give a quick shout out to our secondary in the red zone? What was it? 4 times that the Trevor Lawrence threw it towards the boundaries. They caught it, but we pushed him out 4 different times.
Well, it didn't work the first time. You're going to try it a second time, and then you just keep doing it, and then you just do it another time.
Who was it that had the almost an identical? Was it Zay Jones? Identical out the back of the end zone, like.
Yeah, it was him and
funny.
Calvin Ridley both had identicals at the back of the end zone. And then Calvin Ridley on one of them got bodied by the goalpost.
Yeah, that yeah. That was hilarious.